little bit. So, all right. So, Purple Nymph, if you want to share a few things about yourself, let everybody know who you are, what you do, and anything that you're willing or wanting to share.
Hi everyone, Purple Nymph here. How are you? Thank you so much, Mel, for having me on here. It's absolutely lovely. Yes, I'm into the metaphysics. I've been delving into this for a while now. Over the last 6 years, I've been discovering truth about life and that sort of thing. And this is where this has led me to now. I love tarot reading. I love rune reading. I love exploring, and I love information. Information is what everybody needs, and that's what I use. And when it changes, I'm adaptable to that type of thing. But yeah, I'm a little girl. I'm only about 4 foot. I live in Australia, and we have a lovely place where we live right now, and I'm very, very lucky. So yes, Mel, thank you very much for having me on.
All right. And so astrologically, you are a Leo sun, 7th house Leo sun with conjunction of Saturn. You are a Capricorn rising, but a late degree Capricorn rising, so your first house is in Aquarius, and you are a Gemini moon. So that's a nice little combination of earth, air, and fire.
Yes, I'm very lucky. I seem to have a little bit of balance anyway. Not at all together, but yeah, a little bit.
And so like broadcasting and all that that's seen through, Aquarius, Gemini, but and then of course that's intersect with Leo. So yeah, it's a nice little combination. It's actually a perfect combination. Now, how long have you been reading tarot?
Been reading tarot. Well, from a little kid, I had a lot of medium sort of stuff. I have visions, and I didn't really understand what they were, so I switched it off for a while. And so it's only sort of been in the last maybe 10, 12 years that I've sort of picked tarot back up and explored more about it, and how you don't have to always just read what's in a book, how you can read a card and energies around what's going on, because everything has an energy. So yeah, for about a good 10 years now, I've been, delving into it, but it's been probably in the last 4 to 5 years that I've really taken it seriously. Yeah.
Excellent. And so you're in Australia, but you were born in England, right?
Yes, I was. Over there, in Australia, we call them pommies. So yeah, I was about 3 months old when, yeah, pommies. Yeah, it's pommy land. It's us Australians like to talk weird. But yeah, I was 3 months old when I came over here. My father's seen that Britain was in trouble at the time when it came to work. There wasn't much work going on, and he'd already had served in the services as a navyman. So he'd already done some stuff down here in Australia with his parents. And because of his service and everything like that, we were called what you call in Australia 10-pound poms. So for £10, he got to ship his family over to Australia and start working. And that's exactly what he did. He's seen that as an opportunity for his future children, because Australia was such a growing nation at the time in the 70s. So yeah, very lucky to be able to grow up in a land where you could do a lot without many restrictions, and learn what you wanted, because there was a plethora of knowledge that you were able to get to as long as you really wanted it. And just basic learning, living life, I suppose, in the tough, rugged country that's called Australia, because it is tough and rugged. There's no lying about that, but it's worth it. It's really worth it.
So what do you guys do for fun there? You guys like chase down the kangaroos, trip on the Barbie? Like
it's so funny you say that, because most people actually think that we have like koalas in our backyard and that we ride kangaroos, and it's just not true. No,
where's your Joey at?
Yeah, right. But no, for fun, it's a lot of we spend a lot of our summers doing water sports and enjoying that sort of thing, getting out, having the barbecue. But we're very sport. We such a big sport nation over here in Australia, and because of the low population, we find it that it's really, really competitive. So to actually get a place in sport's quite important over here, because there's such limited sports places, I suppose. So sport in Australia is highly sought after. But I must admit, we have a lot of good scientists. We get a lot of people in the medical and the metaphysical, and even the naturopath field, because we've got such an abundance here in Australia, that we get to promote a lot of that healthy living and that sort of thing, because it's something that we can do every day, and we've got lots of people that are knowledgeable on that. So, and inventing. Australia is the leaders when it comes to inventing things especially for the sick and that sort of thing. So I'm quite proud to be called an Australian right now.
And actually, you know what? Like with medical stuff, like when I do medical research, I've actually here recently in the like last year, like I'll come across stuff and there's always something in there, like doctors from Australia or case studies and stuff like that. And it was kind of interesting to learn that you guys are not as heavily popular. I would have assumed it was like heavily populated like everywhere else, but then then I have to remind myself like when they do filming for movies, all that open space and all the open land and everything, and it's absolutely beautiful. And some of the best actors and actresses are from Australia. So
Yeah, we're really lucky. Like I said, the abundance here that we have, and now that we are now amalgamating with the Indigenous here, the elders and the Biripi land that I live on are absolutely wonderful, and they're forthcoming now with the information about the old way of life and how they learned things. So this for me is absolutely beautiful. It's a perfect timing in my life because it's happening more where I live, which is more country than what it is city. So we, the country people, are going to push this more. It's going to happen more. It's going to filter into our schools, which eventually will get to the cities. But we're really lucky at the moment. I mean, finding about bush tucker and what they used and how they used it and why they moved. They moved so they didn't deplete resources. So, the elders and that sort of thing and that relationship that's happening in Australia, I'm so glad to be part of at the moment.
that's awesome. And and that gives for like a lot of topics of discussion. Talk about things in Australia and like what's new and what's happening, and and like with unique vibrations, we have subtopics, where it's not just metaphysics and not just tarot and psychic stuff, but other leading topics of discussion that's going on in the world too are just as important, which leads us to which what was a project that I had asked you to come in on was with the Erotic Sexual Revolution, Chapter 5. It's going into its 5th year. Unique Vibrations is it's its 5th year anniversary. That's at 5. And we have
Congratulations.
usually always have different different topics and stuff, and there's some topics that died out, and there's just some that just I'm trying to hold on strong to. But I think having a topic and talking things out of Australia would be great, because then you can educate us over the ignorant ones over here, in the States and other countries that that don't know much about actual Australia. Just like I'm in South Dakota, and people think that we live in teepees and still have Native Americans running around being shot by cowboys. People still believe that to this day. That we don't have running water and stuff like that. Like when my mom moved here, that's what everybody, all her family thought that. Like, how are you using a phone? Do you guys have running water? You're sleeping a tea. So so it's just education. That's how you fight ignorance, is through education and communicating and sharing knowledge.
Yeah, and it's
So
funny how you say that there's so many stigmas, because we have a stigma too. I mean, we get called Skippy, which means, a
yeah,
kangaroo hopping, and there used to be a show called Skippy. So if you're white and Australian, you're a skip, so like the stigma that goes around with, like redneck or hillbilly or a bogan. Over here we have bogans, like you sort of think, oh wow, but they're some of the most ingenious people. They are some of the most thought-provoking people, and they're some of the most community-minded people, and when you get to know them, that whole stigma goes out the window. But we also have that in sexual stigma, don't we? We have things that are so taboo, and so things that we can't talk about, that our parents didn't. That's why this episode and what we're doing now is quite important, because we need to talk about the healthy sexual relationships that need to happen between everybody, not only between partners, but between parents, between parent and child, between the next door neighbor and you, between your workmate and you, between your boss and you. It should, it's gotten to a point where everything is such liberalization and everything's construed as sexual conduct, that a man can't even literally flirt with you or open the door without it being misconstrued as something wrong, or vice versa with the woman. So we need to really talk about sexual healthy relationships, and we need to talk more about it.
And like literally you're in the country down under, like literally like that opposite polarization from like where I'm at, and so it's like literally two different worlds, because I know that in other countries sexuality and sex and all that is viewed very differently, and I know that Europeans and other countries embrace it more, and it's not so like we're in the United States, it's just like for a country that does a lot of porn, they're so very vanilla thinking when it comes to sex. It's like they're so it's like it's not as open, not like open as is like in other countries, where in other countries like they have like those game shows or anchor news weather reports where she's topless, or they're not so frigid as Americans and
Yeah,
stuff are when it comes to
but
sexuality.
again, exactly, Mel, and it goes back to stigma. It's the stigma of, if you've got your boobs hanging out, you're obviously a dirty girl, and that is horrible to think, because boobs hanging out could be meaning that you're trying to feed a child. You know what I mean? It could be a
Or it's just
liberation. You're
hot. I
dancing.
mean, shit, Australia gets
Yeah,
hot, right? You know, we'll get
yeah,
hot here too.
but because we've got all these stigma, this is what happens, and these conversations aren't having. But we've also got to have the conversation about what's been given to our kids and the access to everybody now. I mean, porn is actors doing a sexual act. It's not the real way the world lives. And because it's such a porn-filled world, they're getting the wrong idea about what sex could actually be and what it is. You know, oh, 5 minutes, take break, we've got to get right back into it. Where's my Viagra? Like, that's just not how
Yeah,
it is, you know, like,
yeah.
you
They
know,
don't really,
like,
yeah, they don't
so
realize that.
that's right. So it's really comes down to what we are intaking and what they are pushing and what we are allowing, because in some of those countries, they don't allow any of that type of advertisement. They don't allow any of that type of pushing.
Right.
You know, I mean, sex education in our kids is, you know, putting a condom on a banana. What the fuck? You
Right,
know,
and then
like,
also too, and to make, you know, children feel guilty about their sexuality or make them feel some kind of way, or, you know, like I remember one time, like Gina had said something about like, oh, you just want to punish her for, you know, for houses. Like, no, I don't, you know, like I, you know, I'm not the type of parent, but there is so much stigma around it, and when it comes to things, not just sexual stuff, but erotic stuff, taboo stuff like bondage and all that. There's so, it's so black and white. It's so, you're either in this area or in this area. There's no gray area, and I think that we need to find a way to fuse it together and to basically get rid of, you know, fallacies. Also, there is a healthy balance when it comes to things in life, especially when it comes to sexuality and everything. And sexuality doesn't always have to lead to, you know, sexual trauma, because, you know, that was the thing, you know, like if you are a stripper, you're going to become a prostitute, or if you're, you know, or you're going to go into porn, and people are going to porn, or these type of people, which is not true. You know, because there's some people that they just want to get porn because, you know, that's what they want to do, not because, you know,
yeah,
daddy touched them or because they had some type of lifestyle. You know, there's so much, not just, like I said, like a lot of fallacies, a lot of just like real nasty eye that goes upon stuff with the, not only just the sexual industry and sexual workers, but just sexuality in general. There's just, and it still has like it still gets that side eye of like, it's just, it's wrong, it's dirty, it's you know,
yeah,
and people don't realize that there's a balance. There, you
yeah,
know, there
exactly.
is that middle ground of understanding and knowing, and there is a way to be able to incorporate sexuality into your life, no matter what it is, and it be healthy and not traumatic and not, you know, just soul damaging. Be very soul healing, very uplifting. Because sex is one of the most highest vibration. You say, oh, love is the most highest vibration. No, love is a high vibration, but so is sex.
Yeah, exactly. But it all stems from the root chakra. And I mean, that's something we can go into, but it's the healthy sexual relationships and the talk that needs to be had first. You know, we need to understand that, and
Educate.
it's accepted, and it's the acceptance, you know, to a certain degree. There are some things that can
No
be,
tolerance. There are some things that
yeah,
should
but
have no tolerance. You know,
yeah, but there are things where people say, you know, kids are highly sexualized at such a young age. Yes, but that's only because no one wants to talk about the real deal with them, and that's where it gets hard. I mean, I've taught my young children from a young age that no one touches them but themselves. You know, so I've worked off that basis, you know, and because I've worked off that basis, I have a very open relationship with my eldest son when it comes to talking sexual things, you know, which people, you know, my mother would looks and sort of goes, how can you have that conversation? And it's like, mum, how can I not have that conversation? These are
right?
conversations, these are conversations that need to be had, and he needs to not feel that it, you know, it doesn't need to be hidden. It's not
And
something
sexual,
that
and
needs
it
to be
has been
hidden.
such a true sexual education with children, especially from a parent-child dynamic, has been, oh, the birds and the bees. There was never really no birds and the bees talk. Children usually found out through siblings or through friends. I mean, there was no open door topic of discussion when it comes to sexual. Like, I have two girls, and both of my girls have been um very open with me sexually. You know, but but that was always, you know, but I've always done some type of, I've always worked in, I don't want to say sex work, but, you know, I've always either did sexual life coaching, or, you know, I worked for passion parties,
Yeah,
you know, that's always been incorporated in my life. So having children, you know, it was very important for them to have a safe, and not just safe, but that understanding that when it came to sexuality, that they don't have to fear anything with me, you know, like they could talk to
that's
me
right.
about, you know, and
Yeah,
come to me
nothing's
that you expect
punishable. That's right.
you know, and
Yeah,
then that's the mom that's
nothing's
spiritual lady
punishable.
that's gonna send them to Catholic school.
Yeah, and that's right. And having the table lay open for whatever conversation that they may want to have is your best interest, because that means, and the whole idea of that is not, and saying, listen, nothing here is going to be taken any other way, and it won't leave here. And that is the biggest thing, because they talk to you in confidence, because it is such a shh thing. So you need to respect that as well. You can't go and tell Uncle Joey that, oh, did you know that little Joe Blogs come and see me and he's talking about his testes dropping? Like it's not something that is private to them to come to you and talk about that. But this is where it starts, because eventually they'll go and ask Uncle Joe Blogs, because they are so comfortable with having that conversation. But in the beginning, you need to have that tiny little bit of privacy and understanding of, all right, I hear what you're saying. I've got you. We'll have this conversation. We'll check it more out and we'll find out more. And I think sex has to be an education always. It is always evolving. It is always moving forward. We cannot stay stagnant in what sexuality was 50 years ago. I'm sorry. It's just not the same. But it doesn't have to be dirty. You know?
Yeah, or wrong, or have that shame, filter effect to it. It can be something that can be just beautiful. And and I agree with education. I think that's the thing, the re-education. That's what the sexual act revolution. That's why it's a revolution. It's a revolution of an evolution of information, understanding, and uplifting. Even within ourselves. The sexual energy within ourselves, because we wouldn't be here without sex. I mean, everything. If you think about the constant world is in some type of a sexual connection, negative, positive, feminine, masculine, bees bringing pollen to it, a flower and pollinating it, like literally creation is sexual.
Yeah, and it's a frequency that can be measured, literally. Like a sexual energy can be measured. It's in your pheromones. It's, you might not measure it here, but you can measure it here. You can measure it here. There's other ways that you can measure the energy of sexual energy. And that's what we're going to talk about. And especially when it comes to medical sexual energy, because that you can change. People in wheelchairs, people who have impotence. There are other ways to be able to be sexual and get around medical conditions. And that's why this is going to be really good for us to talk about, in these episodes coming up, because it's very important to people, because those people don't have anybody to talk to. And if they do, it's almost as if they're mocked or bullied or, taken the piss out of. And we've got to not do that anymore. We've got to find good ways where they can actually release that pressure, because it's a pressure. I've said to some of my friends, you need a good hard root. You haven't had one because you're just really bottling that stuff up. I've done it.
I think maybe that's what's wrong with the world. Maybe our senators and congressmen and the rulers of the world, they just got laid. Maybe that might help. But yes, definitely education, especially when it comes to medical stuff, taboo stuff. Just all just so many different rounds and so many different things to get into. But yes, medical definitely huge one. And like when you think of like sexuality, to me, sexuality is the union of two things coming together. Two things coming together, because two things coming together produces, can produce or manifest, like, well, man and woman coming together producing a child, man woman together producing an orgasm. There's some type of an alchemy effect of it, whether it's a physical or spiritual or mental or energetic. But yeah, that's what sex is. It's two things coming together. Just like having sex. They come together. But that's right.
But it's a recipe, Mel. It's like the recipe might not work if you've got, you can have black truffles with apricots, but you might not like that. So, you want to choose a little bit of champagne that goes with the apricots. You know what I mean? So there is a variety and there is a recipe to the alchemy. Of course, everything has a recipe.
For everybody too.
That's exactly right.
Sexuality it can't be pigeonholed into a little box or a category. It's very much just a mixture of just so much, because we're all different and we all are uniquely different in our own energies, and that goes as well as sexuality and with the eroticism. That's like the deep artistic style of it, and so that's why you're bringing on people talking about their experiences, talking about certain things, or even tackling some of those subjects that that nobody wants to talk about, like medical stuff and with weight gain, weight loss, having a baby, or trying to make a baby. I mean, all of that, it's good so that people have the information and have like a variety of information coming from different viewpoints and perspectives. you know.
That's right. And that's what the sexual spirituality is going to be about for us, is making this a hub for people to come and have a plethora of knowledge, and for you to choose the viewer. You know, you don't have to go and tell somebody if you're still in that space where you need to know something, and we've got that on here and we've explored that a little bit for you, then by all means. I love that aspect of being able to privately go and search something and become informed, and then being able to take that publicly, because that's what we all do. This is how we learn. You know, we learn in private. We're reading a book, we're watching something, we learn this on a different level, and then we take it to the public and we learn.
Learn the
And that's how we
communication.
do it.
Yeah, research communication, and just and having somebody to talk about things with, because because sometimes people just don't have like that surrounding with like where they live or where they're at to be able to just talk with certain people about certain things, but knowing that there's always somebody out there that that can relate, or that can give a helping hand, give some helpful information. And so that's what I'm excited. I'm excited about, just like different topics of stuff, and
Yeah.
remedies, and just everything. I mean, I love talking about sex. I think it's a very beautiful thing. And one of the things that comes with this whole, the evolution, the revolution of what's going on in the world today with, the ascension and all the spiritual stuff. It's like, what is the one major core thing in the foundation of what's wrong with the world that needs to be healed is the sexual energy of it. Think about it, because where does trauma usually start? It's usually sexual trauma. What are we having issues with? Sex trafficking, priests, not keeping their hands to themselves, and prostitute. I mean, all of that. I mean, that's a vibration within the earth and within with us here on, humans and people, that also needs to be basically cured and elevated, and to ascend. That's why it's a revolution, of evolution, because like a lot of people's issues that have trauma, and even like mental issues, just a lot of it is, I would, I mean, I don't know the profession, actually I should look it up and see what the percentage is, but it's definitely, way over 60-70%. But a lot of the trauma, it starts sexually,
Yeah,
or
you're
stems
right.
back to it.
There is a lot of trauma, and that can be sexually not having enough sex too, and not enough attention. So this can go both ways. The trauma doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have been molested or you were
Right.
raped or anything like that. It could be
just trauma.
it could be a trauma of your mother not cuddling you, because the bosom is part of a sexual thing. So it could be as simple as that. And you've got there's certain men that will use sarcasm when it comes to sexual topics, and they throw off, but not realizing that that's a deeper effect within themselves, because they don't accept their own body. They look at their own body as a sarcastic piece of work, so you've really got to understand, you're going to have the people on here that are going to want to talk dirty. They're always going to do it. They're always going to send you the dick pic or whatever. But the trauma that lays
Hey, you said a dick pic. I'm gonna screen share it with your address and phone number. So I dare you.
But the whole thing is why is a man sharing a dick pic when you should already be happy with your member, mate, and you really don't need to show it off? Because if I was interested, I'd soon let you know. Like
yes, that's
the
nice
chemical.
that you have here.
Remember that recipe you were talking?
Go away.
Right. That's right. That recipe of the chemical things we were talking about. I need to be part of that recipe, dude. So I'm, send me a dick pic, but it doesn't mean it's the recipe and I'm going to put it in there. So sorry.
Yeah, it's like, and what do you expect me to do with this? Hold on. As you type in, let me get my magnifying glass. I'm not quite sure what I'm looking at. And that's another thing too, like there's always sexual trauma, as in like, rape, molestation, and all that, but it could just be just self-esteem.
Yes.
Or accidentally walking in on your sister or your brother, and you're just like, and just becoming asexual. It's just, there's so much. So it doesn't necessarily have to be something as traumatic as abuse. It could be something just traumatic as an experience, or a self-reflection thought, or comparison, or
that's
just
right.
Like, for example, like I think my boobs are too huge, my baby thinks that, that they're perfectly fine. Like it's right. And that's been an insecurity from, like when they're too big, when all girls, they're insecure because it's too small, so it branches up to so much. I mean, it's such a broad area of so much.
Yeah, and it'll take us a while to get through some things, but with the beautiful people that we talk to, I'm sure that we'll get some wonderful topics that they want to talk about. I do have to go very soon. I've got 2 minutes picking up my kids, but yeah, so at least that's an introduction to let you know that what we are trying to do and what we're achieving, you know, it's going to be a hub of information. It might go off topic sometimes, but we usually are pretty good. And we do like to do a lot of the research and become informed. So if there's something we don't know, we make sure that we try and know it.
Or
Okay,
find
so
somebody
yeah,
and bring them on that does know to, you know, educate. So
that's right.
yes, and so again, you know, electrical essence and purple nymph, and so yes, we are kicking off the chapter 5 of the sexual erotic revolution, and come join us, and this will be excellent.
Yep. Thank
All right,
you. Thank
everybody.
you.
So, all right, so go ahead and end it here, and well, I'm going to leave all the information to email and links and everything, you know, to get into contact with us if you have some topics or some, you know, questions. You know, we're here. All right, you guys.
Bye. Thanks.